China and those in we want to say thank you very much for what you guys have done for us, and it is very important for the student community here. And this is one of our objectives when we came to power. We said we will try in all means to enhance our educational pathway so that our colleagues can able to achieve or develop some skills that are demanding in the market job. So I want to say thank you very much to the team for putting that together. And also for a very final one, thank you to the entire student community for trusting us. For bestowing that trust, it means a lot. We'll be together with you guys, or we'll talk to the entire student body by Saturday after my visits with the president. So continue to trust in our movement, continue to trust in this union, and I'm pretty sure we'll get there by God's grace. Thank you once more, and let's have a blissful and successful training. God bless you all.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. President. Without wasting time, because already 5 minutes into the training section, let me kindly welcome the facilitator, our IT guru, who is no longer a person, but Mr. OLANO. Welcome, sir.
Welcome. Thank you guys so much. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you, sir.
All right. So thanks so much to the Sierra Leone Student Union, through the Academic Excellence Committee, and to all of you here on this platform. It's a privilege, like I said on the first day, to carry on this training with you guys. And I hope that in the near future, we can do many other trainings as it relates to technology. You can be on any other training that you want. Probably you want to understand different programming languages, or you want to understand web development, software development. You also probably want to understand just Microsoft Office, how to use PowerPoint, Excel, Word, and all these things. So if the union or whoever is interested in that, you can as well reach out to us. We will always be available to help in the best way that we can. So thank you guys so much for joining. And today is the last day. So after here, one thing that I want to say, when I received the document from the committee on the certificate thing, you will have to use the website, and the link will be shared also with Mr. Masakwe and the president, so that they can show you probably how to get a certificate. But mostly, the only way you have to get it is to visit TIT website. And from the website, you can type in your last name. You type in your last name to get the certificate. So the link of the website will be shared, and as well as the probably other information. So the name you have been using, just as you wrote your name, if you wrote the last name first before the first name, we might not know. So just as you wrote your name, the last one there would be the name you can enter on the website to download your certificate. If for any reason, maybe two persons have the same last name, if you try the first time with your last name and it's not working, you can combine your first name and your last name together. So you can type your first name and your last name together to download the certificate. But your first trial should be to import your last name. So if your certificate is there, the system is going to tell you to download the certificate. So you visit the website and you see training, on training, you will see certificate verification. So in this area, you want to scroll down a little bit, and then you will see data analysis training certificate download. So what you want to do here is to import your last name. For example, maybe I say, let me just put something different like Alpha. For now, Alpha is not, I don't think I have any Alpha in the system. So if I enter Alpha as the last name for that person, the system below here will tell me, sorry, no data matching this info. If your name is actually in the system, that means the AEC of the student union submitted your name to us, and you enter your last name. For example, when I enter this last name and I press on search or enter, I'm going to get the option here that's going to tell me click to download your certificate. So once I click on this, my certificate will be downloaded automatically. So this is how you're going to download your certificate from the website. Once you search, look right below the search area, and you will see if your name is there to get a certificate or not. At any point in time, if you have any question, you can reach out to Mr. Masakwe or the president, and then they're going to reach out to us to fix your problem. But your first thing should be your attendance record. That one, I'm not in charge of it. Mr. Masakwe and the team, they're the one in charge of it. So whatever name they give me, that's the name I'm going to import into the system to prepare the certificate. So if you enter your last name, you don't see certificate, and maybe your name is Alpha, let's say Alpha So, right? That's your full name. Maybe another person have the last name So. So if you enter that name and you see the option here, click to download your certificate, and you download this certificate, is not yours, then you can come back here to the system and combine without space, combine your first and your last name. And you can search, and if it tells you download your certificate, that means the one that you are downloading will actually be yours. So that's just something I want us to talk about or to make clarity on, because getting a certificate is maybe another process, and people are going to be here and there. So I hope you use your real name, and we hope that you also attended the 3 days or 2 days. I'm having issue changing my name. That one you can fix it out with Mr. Masakwe, but the option here is on Zoom for you to know how to change your name. So please just make whatever rectification for your attendance or whatever thing. Please reach out to Mr. Masakwe or the president or anybody on the academic committee. For those of you who have participated in the 2 days training, but don't find your name on the list, please contact Mr. Sofa. Yeah, so yeah, please guys, please do that. So now let's move on to today, what we have for you today. We're going to a little bit cover up data manipulation, and then we dive now into data visualization. There are a few things that I want us to talk about on data manipulation that we started yesterday. So we just completed, and then we move straight into how we can now visualize our data. So one thing is something called recode. But as always, I would like to hear from you on where you are joining us from. So while I'm talking, you can just send a message in the chat box by letting us know where you are joining us from, the city or the country. But I'm sure many of us already in China, so just let us know your city you are joining us from in the chat box. So we're going to observe one keyword or something called recode. Recode means probably in the system, maybe the data set that you collected, you have maybe, for example, you have in the sex region. Let's see if we can view let's view the Star Wars data set. All right, let's try to view the Star Wars data set and see probably what we are talking about here. All right. If you check the Star Wars data set, you will see that for one of the column called sex, there are different inscriptions here. Like you have male, non-female, male, female, male, female, like that. So let's say, for example, other person have hermaphrodites. So you want to change, maybe the person that went to the field to collect the data, they decide to record the sex with male and female. Let's say you want to change from male, you want to change it to man, or female, you want to change that to woman. So you also have the ability to do it instead of you maybe manually tapping or going to your data and changing it one at a time. You also have the ability to do that from R. So let's see how we can do it. One thing we want to do is probably let's create a variable. So today I'm going to use another person name. Someone is using HP. I don't know who's that person, but let's use Lamin. Lamin as a variable. But firstly, let's also call our libraries that we want to use. I want to use the tidyverse because the tidyverse has all of these things. And then someone raising their hand with iPhone. I don't know if you want to speak. If you want to, please do that. You just use the feature raise hand. So I don't know if it was a mistake. But if you actually want to speak, then you can just unmute yourself and speak. So if you observe here first, I think some guys are raising their hand. I don't know if it's a mistake or they want to speak. If you want to speak, please unmute yourself and speak. Hello? Can you hear me, guys?
No, we are getting you. Let's go. Maybe it's a mistake. Let's go ahead.
Okay. So we are going to use these two libraries, but even by default, if you use the tidyverse also has ggplot2 within it, but you can also call the ggplot2 library as well. So to install ggplot2, you can just use install packages ggplot2, or you can just call it. I think it should already be among your packages as long as you already installed the tidyverse.
Sorry, I want to ask a short question. So meaning packages every day you want to use R, you need to load it again, right? Even if you are using it yesterday.
So if you are using it yesterday and you did not close your R, or you probably have not closed this R script, because you can see the one for yesterday was a different script, this one. So today I'm opening a whole new different document or R script. So I have to specify, I have to specify that. But if I'm still working in this yesterday file, I can just continue because I've already called all of these libraries there. So there's a whole new document. So we call these two libraries because that's what we want to use. Most of the functions or keywords that we want to use, they are coming from these libraries. And also the data set that we want to use is also coming from this library. So how can we go about this? If we want to change from maybe male to female or female to male like that, or male to man and then woman to female. So we create first the variable, and then which data set do we want to work with? We want to work with the Star Wars data set. So like I said yesterday, we're going to work a lot with this Star Wars data set. And what else do we want to do? We want to display. So say we want to display some information. For example, the sex. In the Star Wars data set, we saw sex. So we can also probably call the name and let's get a name and a height. So we get a name. So we select the name, we select the height. From the Star Wars data set. And then the next thing we want to do here, we want to use the keyword mutate. Yesterday we also used it. So we can also use the keyword mutate. Mutate is there to change or create new column or new variable. So what do we want to mutate? We want to mutate sex. And we are saying that the keyword to do that is recode. So from sex, what do we want to do? We want to recode. Recode means something that was in existence, we want to change it to another thing. So recode. Probably we coded something, but then we want to code it again. So recode sex, but then this sex now, in the sex column, we have male and female, and we also have none. We also have different things there. So let's change from male. We want to change it to man. And then also, we want to change female in that column from that data set. We want to change it to woman. And then we can also view this variable called Lamin. So again, I'll just go over it. We created a variable, and inside this variable, we want to store this entire data set called Star War, but there is something we want to display or we want to work with. So we are selecting few things we want to show. We are selecting a name from this data set called Star War. We are also selecting a height, and then we are selecting another column called sex. And then we want to change the sex column where we have the description, male and female. We want to change it, so we use the keyword recode. Since we want to change it, we use recode. Recode from the column sex. Whatever you see male, change it to man. Whatever you see female, change it to woman. So if there are a lot of things also in that column, you can keep changing it. Or if you just want to change only male to man and then female to woman, then that's also fine by you. So let's try to run it and see probably if we are going to be lucky to get something out here. So that was successful. Now we can see that we see in our select statement, we said we want to view name, height, and sex. But if you observe in the original data set, where we had the sex area, we saw male and then female. But then in our new variable that we created called Lamin, we are now seeing man and we are seeing woman. So that's another way you can recode or you can change things. Yesterday we saw how we can change the column name. Today we are showing you how to change things that are within the column. So if I'm going to give you a chance to read it, and if you are successful in that, then we can move on to the next one. So while you are writing it, I'll keep explaining it for some of you that still have a question about it. So we used select yesterday. So if you followed yesterday, it shouldn't be screened to you. We also used mutate yesterday. So the only thing that should be screened to you today is recode. Recode should be the only thing that we are introducing today, or that should be screened to you today. So if you have done yours, please send one in the chat box. If you have done yours, please send one in the chat box. So we are recoding sex, the column sex. From that column, we have different sex in that column. We have male, we have male, we have female, we have none, we have hermaphrodite, we have not available, and so many things there. So probably if the person didn't put anything or what NA, you can also replace it with whatever you want. So a couple of people have already done theirs. That's good. So many, we are on course. If you have any question, you can send a question in the chat box, or you can unmute yourself and ask a question. But I think it was already easy. So many people have already done that. The next thing is, whenever we want to calculate, for example, in the Star Wars that I said, we have the height. So let's say we want to find the mean or the standard deviation or any other mathematical expression or statistical expression we want to find from the height. For you to find the mean, for example, and this data set has empty data, mean will not be executed or will not be found. So you have to remove whatever you see missing data before you can calculate the mean. So let's see how to do that. Let's say we want to calculate the mean on this data set called Star Wars. And from Star Wars, we have a specific column So for us to use that specific column, we use the $sign or the currency sign, or probably, I don't know, whichever name you know about this sign. So whatever name you know about this, $sign or probably currency sign or symbol, we use that, meaning we want to calculate the means, but then against this data set called Star Wars. But Star Wars has so many columns. So which column do you want to work with? I want to work with the height. So I'm going to choose the height here. And then what do you want to do? For example, now, if I just want to calculate the mean for this, when I press run, I can see NA. And NA is not what I actually want as the mean. The mean, I should be expecting value. Yesterday you closed everything. Now you cannot get Star Wars data. You should get it. It doesn't matter if you close it. Just load the library 30 verse, and you should be able to get Star Wars data. So it's not a problem. Just load the library, and you should be able to get it. So you can see we try to get the mean of the height, but it just gave us NA in our console. That is because that value or that column has missing data. That column has missing data. So what can we do? We have to remove the missing data from there. So we say NA means the null available data or missing data dot RM. So RM means remove. Remove NA. Remove the missing data. So we say true. True means you agree to remove the missing data. False, if you put false here, means you don't agree to remove the missing data. So now if we try to run this, we should be able to now see the mean of that entire column called height. And the mean there was 174.6049. So that's the mean. So it's just something very useful, because probably if you want to calculate the mean or standard deviation, other things about your data, and you have missing data in your report or in your record or in your data set, you should make sure to remove those missing data. The next thing we want to do here is to work with duplicates. So let's say in our data, we have a lot of duplicates. So let's create a variable, and then we just add some characters using character vector and also numeric vector. So let's create a variable quickly. I'm going to call this variable names. I'll just call it probably SL, maybe representing Salon. And then in this variable, I want to have a character data set or character vector, right? And I'm going to have different names, maybe Peter. And then also I'm going to have John. And also I'm going to have Andrew, right? So it can be considered as an entire data set. But I just want to show you something quickly. So let's repeat Peter again so that we can have a duplicate. So we have another person here called Peter. The next thing we want to do now, we just saved it. So we run it. Now that variable is already on our environment. That variable is already on our environment called SL. Let's create another variable called probably ages. And then in ages, I want to have the ages of just different people. But technically, they are going to be the age of these people that are here. So let's say we have 22. We also have maybe 34 or 33. And then we have 44. We also have 22. Let's repeat 22 again. And I'm going to run this again. So now we created two variables called SL and ages. Now let's create a data frame combining these two variables. So we create a data frame maybe called friends. So we already tell you about how to create a variable and all of that. So this variable is called frame, but it's going to be a data frame. We already explained what is data frame. And that's what I said, as we progress, you will understand why we did the previous things. So data frame, in this data frame, we want to have name. Let's say we want to have SL, and we also want to have ages inside this data frame. So I'm going to also run it. So that data frame was created with a variable named frame. Now, let's see how we can get rid of duplicate data inside this data frame. So if I come here to frame, let's open it. I can see we have combined these two variables into one data. We combine these two variables into one data. So the first variable was something different. Another one was something different, but then we are able to make it one document. That's another unique thing. So now that we have this, let's see if we can, because if you observe, you see number one, Peter is 22. Another person, another document, record here, number 4, Peter is also 22. So let's see how we can get rid of that duplicate data. To get rid of the duplicate data, we now call this friend variable or the friend data set, and then we do what? We put our indent sign. We use a keyword called distinct. Distinct means you want to get something different, just the same English word, distinct. And then what do you want to do? We want to get distinct friends. So let's see probably what we can do here on this data set. Let's first run it against friend and see the result we are going to get. And then let's view friend. Let's view friend. So I'm going to run it and see first what we have here. Let's run it and see probably if we have any kind of error. So we get an error here. We must use existing variable friend phone in data. So let's see. Let's remove this friend from in here and use the distinct keyword to see if this is going to help us to remove. So now you can see it didn't remove it. But if you look down here, in our console, it removed if the tidyverse package don't exist in your R, then install R. Okay, that's another person problem. So now it remove it. If you check in the console, it remove it. It just have 3 entries. Number 1, Peter 22, John, and then Andrew 44. So if you can see it from the console here, it actually remove it from the console. But I wanted to make it better. So let's see probably how we can make this better. So I'm also going to use this thing. And then I put it in friends also. And I'm trying to view it. Let's see what will happen. It's still not popping up, but it's changing from the console. But it's not changing from the variable, the data set itself. But just to show you technically how to do it, that was just it. I'll try to fix it and see probably what's the main issue there. I'll try to fix it and see what's the main issue. But if you run it again, you can see that it's actually going to remove all of it's just going to give you the distinct or the different things that are not similar to other things. So you can see it from the console, it actually did it, but I wanted to put it back into our data frame. So that was just it. If you have any question or if you have done it, check your console and see if it is actually removing that other one, the other one, number 4 called Peter 22. If it actually did, please let me know in the comment section by sending 1. You can just send 1 in the comment section. So if you run it again and you saw that it gave you this one, just send us 1. Okay, so a few people, I say Safa and Barry. All right. So guys, try it and see if you are able to get a distinct entry or data from what we have just created. See if you can get a distinct one from there. The next thing we want to do is to make something complicated a little bit by using conditions. Because if you have been programming before, you also probably have here conditions like if, else, and all of that. So we can also do the same thing in R by using if, else, or else if condition in R. How do we do that? We going to set different condition, and let's do it quickly. After this one will be the last data manipulation, and then we move straightly into data visualization. So I wanted to do something else with this one, but let's, I think this one will be better. Okay, I'll just see how we can do it quickly with time. So let's move on. Let's also use the same, let's create another variable. I'm going to find someone in here, maybe Alfred. I'm going to use Alfred as a variable and working with the same style word data set. What I want to do now is to change. So I'm going to use mutate. And mutate what? I'm going to introduce a new variable called height. This one is going to be height in meter. And that variable is going to be against the actual variable height divided by 100, because I want to get the height in meter. I think we did similar thing like that yesterday. The next thing I want to do is to select what I want to see as the result. So select different columns that you want to display. I want to display name. I also want to display the height, which was the original height. And then a new column that I created called height in meter. I also want to see it. So with this now, the next thing I want to do, I'm just going to run it first so that variable can be created. So if you check, there is a variable called Alfred, and Alfred should be having name, height, and a new variable we created called height in meter. So this is in centimeter, 172, and 172 converted to meter is 1.72. So we just call, using a select statement, all these variables that we want to see. So now let's try to apply the condition to it. The condition I want to apply to this now, I'm going to use the variable Alfred, and then do what with Alfred? So with Alfred, I want to, I just want to add, let me just, instead of creating a new variable or calling this variable, let's work with the same code that we have. So I'm going to say, and then after I select the variables that I want to display, I'm going to say, and then mutate.
Oh,
Is open. So I'm going to use the same expression here that we did before, mutate. And in this mutate now is where I want to put the actual conditions. So for example, I want to say, or introduce a new variable called tallest. And this variable will be equals to this expression. I'm going to say if else. So if else, meaning if something is there, do this. Else, do this. So if there is a country called Sierra Leone, give everyone maybe 1 million USD. Else, if there is no country called Sierra Leone, then maybe give everyone equal, or maybe 1 million, like that. So this is how the condition works. But then I'm going to create a new variable called tallest. So this expression, if else, now we're going to put in what we want. We create a variable called height in meter. So we're going to use that. So we are saying if height in meter is less than 1, Because if you check here in this variable, I mean, in this data set, we have the height in meter, which is height underscore m. We have 1.72, we have 1.67, we have 2 point something here. So there are different values there. So we are saying if height in meter is less than 1, then tell us is short, comma, tall. But this tall here is actually working now for the else. So if the height in meter is less than 1, it should be short, or change it to short in that new column we are creating called tallest. Change it to short. Else, change it to tall. So if the person height is greater than 1 meter, that person can be considered a tall person. If the person height is less than 1 meter, that person height or that person should be considered short. So let's see, let's run this. Let's run this. So that has been run. Let's now try to view it, or we can just click on Afra here in our environment. If we click on Afra, we can now see a whole new data set. And this data set now we can see here, for example, the first person, Luke, their height is greater than 1 because it's 1.72. So 1.72 is greater than 1. So this person is tall. This one, 0.96, is less than 1. So that person is considered short, or that character is considered short. I hope this was useful. It's a very, very important one. So I'm going to give you a few minutes or a few seconds to read the code. But if you're writing along with me and you already have it successful, then you can send 2 in the chat box. You can send 2 in the chat box. All right, so a few people were going along. That's good. You're doing a great job. Congratulations to you. Congratulations to you. Congratulations to you. All right, that's good. That's good. So a lot of people have already done it. So you can set different conditions. And when you set this condition, you can also create new variables. So we created a new variable called tallest. I mean, a new column called tallest. And tallest now is interpreting our data. Tallest is interpreting our data. So we no longer have to maybe think if this person is short or tall. Based on our condition, we can just see directly that this person is tall or this person is short. But you can have different expression there. You can put whatever you want to put. Short, tall, you can change it to whatever thing you want to do. If you also want to do it against maybe mass or any other variable you want to use, that's also fine with you. So now let's move on with the last manipulation. And after this last manipulation, we are going to do one giant size graph. And I want you to get very closer to your computer. We're going to use one giant size graph. And after creating that graph, we are now going to see if time is permitted. We're going to see how we can generate a bar plot, histogram plot, or histogram graph, a bar graph, also box graph, facet wrap, and different kinds of graph we can also create. We can also create a scatter plot. We can create a scatter plot, and yeah, these are, I think, the 5 or 4 main different kind of graphs. So it's either your graph is a bar, it's maybe scatter plot, or it's histogram, or different kind of graphs. So let's do the last one. We're going to now create, but I think I already have this, but I want you to also install it. I'm going to use a library called Gapminder. There's another data set called, or a package called Gapminder. So you can install it from your end. I already have it. You can install it from your end. But in case you want to understand what is Gapminder, Gapminder is an excerpt of the Gapminder data on life expectancy, on the GDP per capita, and the population by country. So it's a whole data set. Let's try to view it and see what the data set entails. So what I'm trying to do, you can install it, and to install it, you already know how to install it. Just put install packages, gap manda. Install packages, gap manda, and it's going to be installed for you. So I'm going to view this data set first to show you how it looks. So you can see this data set, it have all of the countries technically in the world. All the countries in the world. And then the continent that country belongs to. And also the year, the life expectancy, the year that report was conducted, the life expectancy of people from that country in that year, and also the population at that time, and the GDP per capita at that time. Let's see if we can find Sierra Leone, S-I-E-R-R-A. So here you can see Sierra Leone. If you search also, you see it. So Sierra Leone is from the continent of Africa. And in 1952, the life expectancy was 30 years. And the population was about, let's say, 2 million. And then the GDP of Sierra Leone at the time in 1952 was this. So there are different years all here. Almost all of the countries.
Name of this data, please. Name of this data, please.
Gap Mander. Gap, G-A-P-M-I-N-D-E-R. Gap Mander.
Okay.
So if you want to see that, there's a lot of data set in R that you can play with. Just run the command data, and then you're going to see all of the data sets that you can work with. For example, maybe air passenger. This is a monthly airline passenger number. And you can also see different data set here. So you can find whatever you want to play with or practice with, and then go about it. Like for Titanic, you have the survival of passenger on the Titanic. So you have all of what you need to know about the survivors from the Titanic. So you can also use that to do your analysis or practice whatever you have to practice. I'm just giving you a few time to install the package. So if you have installed it, before we move on, please send 3 in the chat box. Number 3 in the chat box, so that we know that you have installed it. I'm going to close the start one. Okay, so a few people, 2% install it already. 3%, 4%. Okay, that's good. So many of you have already installed it. So you can do view GapMander to view the entire data set of GapMander. Okay, so now if you observe carefully, you will see that Afghanistan is listed here a lot based on the various years. So for us to read this data set might be a little bit difficult because the data set is long. So we can transform this thing. Maybe what if we just have one Afghanistan, but then we just have the year in front of it, and then we have every other thing there. Instead of repeating Afghanistan maybe so long or so many times, or every country, we have to keep repeating their names based on the various years that the statistics were done. So let's see how we can do that. So you call your library GapMander, and then what do we want to do? Now let's write our code here and see how we can do that. So that's good, Barry. Now let's write the code. We're going to create a variable that is going to store all of what we want to do. Let's use this person name called Momo, M-O-M-O-H. So let's use this person name as a variable that is going to hold or keep everything we want. We want to select few things from this GapMander data set. So we created a variable, and then we say select. The data set we want to use is called GapMander. So from GapMander data set, what do we want to select? We want to select the country. Probably give us the country. We just want only the country, bro. Okay, just give us the country. And then what we also want to get from here, probably let's get a year. Give us the year, and also give us the life expectancy. So life EXP from that data. And then let's save this variable. Okay, so it created a variable called Mumble. Now, if we try to view Mumble, we should be able to see our new data set that has been extracted from the original data set. We only extracted the name, the year, and the life expectancy from that data set. We extracted the name, the country, the year, and the life expectancy from that data set called the gap Manda. Okay, so now the next thing we want to do here, we want to see how we can make this data set very wide, other than what it was before. So we use something called pivot or pivot, a wider and pivot longer. So first, let's explore the pivot wider. So I'm going to call this one wide data. And inside this wide data, I now want to have, I'm going to call Mumble. So this variable called wide data is a variable. And we already talked about how to create a variable. This is going to keep MOH. Okay, so it's going to get the data from this new data set we created called Mumble. And then what do we want to do? We want to make this data set very wide. So we use a keyword here called pivot wider. So you can see we have pivot longer also. So let's go pivot wider first and see how pivot wider works. What is the shortcut key for this one? The shortcut key is hold the alternate key on your keyboard and you press the less than or the hyphen. Alternate, the ALT key plus minus or hyphen is going to give you this expression. It's going to give you the symbol. Okay, so now let's move on. We say that now in our pivot wider, what are things that we want to see? Give us a new variable, a new column we're going to create called names. Names from country. We're going to call it names from year. And then give us the values from life expectancy. Okay, and then I'm also going to now view this variable called wide data. All right, so let's run it and see what happened. So now you can see very uniquely how everything has been switched. Now we have the country and just Afghanistan. One Afghanistan is here. And then we have all of the years. And then on the year, we have the life expectancy. Before, let's go back to the regional data set. We can see that we have the country's name are just repeating in a vertical, in a long order. And then we have the continent, the year, and all of that. So we are not technically interested in the continent. If we want to add a continent, that's fine. But we just want to get the country name. We want to get a year that research was done and what was the life expectancy. So that's what we have in our wide data. So we have the name Afghanistan. In 1952, this was the life expectancy. And also in 57, there was the life expectancy. So you can see it going in that order or in that fraction. So it's a unique way of probably interpreting or rearranging your data that's going to make sense or probably going to be easier to read. So let's see if you have done this. This is the code right here. I'm going to be writing the one for pivot longer. Just going to copy and paste the same thing and just change the variable name. Okay. So I'm going to give you a chance to be writing yours. If you have done yours, you can just send number 4 in the chat box while we are changing from pivot wider to pivot longer. So we're going to use pivot longer now. And I'm also going to change the variable name. Let's say I'm going to use, I don't know if I used Mustafa before. I'm going to change the variable name to Mustafa, Mustapha. I'm going to change this variable name to Mustafa. And then also this Y data, I'm going to change it to long data. I'm going to change Y data to long data. I'm also going to view long data. So I'll just make these few changes there. And this variable name is Mustafa is no longer Momo. Okay. So we have a whole different thing. That's good. Thank you guys. Having problem installing Gapminder. So if the problem still persists, you can send a screenshot in the chat box. Probably we're going to see what's the error. Probably going to see what's the error. So GIS, you can also do GIS in R. It's very unique. I'm going to show you. Probably no, not. I'm not going to show you now, but you can do GIS in R. It's very, very unique. Very, very unique. You can do GIS. R will come with that package also. You can generate different maps, maybe the map of Sierra Leone, and then you can put in data based on the different regions in Sierra Leone. You can customize the entire map, even the lines that are dividing the regions. You can also customize those lines, make the line tick, make it white, blue, or whatever. Inside, even in the map, the color of the map, you can do a whole lot of things with R, which is not possible with any other software out there for data analysis. So now we have a new variable called Mustafa, and we're also selecting the same thing from the Gapminder data set. We're selecting country, year, and life expectancy. And also we create, let me just run this one, run it line by line. So we created this variable called Mustafa. If we check Mustafa here, you also see that Mustafa gave us the country, year, and life expectancy, also in a very long format. Now we're going to create another variable called long data. Long data is going to keep the data set called Mustafa. It's going to take that data set, and then we're going to use a keyword called pivot longer, meaning we want our data to be long instead of the way it was wide as we saw for Momo. So we're now going to make this data set long. So we say give us the year. So we use this one called name from year. And then the values that we want should come from life expectancy. So name from and value from, they are keywords. Okay, Abdul. So name from and value from, they are keywords. Year and life expectancy, these are columns within our data. So now let's run it and see probably what we are going to have. There's a problem here. They say columns must select at least one column. What are you saying, bro?
You did not include Mustafa. You highlighted and left Mustafa to select Gapminder country here.
No, we shouldn't call Mustafa. The first one was okay. We ran the first one already. Second one is a new variable called long data that is taking the data of Mustafa. And then in our pivot wider, let's see, since we gave this error, I'm going to use something unique here. Let me use something unique right here. All right. So I'm going to delete this one, or I'll delete it, but let me just show you probably the changes that I'm making here. So in this one, I'm going to say give main from the second column to column 13. Give me the second column to column 13, and then do what? Give me the names from, or I'll use name to instead of using name from. I'm going to use name to, and then inside here, I'm going to put year. And then also what I want to do here, I also want to put the values. I want give me the value to life expectancy. All right. And that should be it. Let me delete this line and see if this auto code is going to run. So what we are saying, give us specifically, we can also specify from the second to the 13 column, or from 2 to 13. The name should be now changed to year, and the value should come from life expectancy. So let's see if this is going to work for us. In pivot longer, can select column past the end. So we have something longer than that. There are only 3 columns. So we can go longer. So let's see, instead of specifying the column, let's see if we don't specify the columns that we want, what's going to happen? Column must select at least one something. What's the problem, bro? Oops, sorry. So column 2 to 3, comma. So the issue is just basically with the columns. Okay, so now it has been fixed. It has been fixed. But if you observe the data representation is different. So to the year area is mutate the same as left join or band in our function. Mutate is not the same as left join or band. They are not the same. Mutate is a different thing. Left band, left join is a different one. It's a whole different one. So let's see. I'm going to change this for the pivot longer. It's kind of giving a little bit of problem. So let's fix that problem. I'm going to rewrite this thing, but I'm going to create a whole different thing. That's why sometimes it's not good to copy and paste. So let's create a whole different data set. I'm going to call this data set data, but then I'm going to now save or select. It's the same thing, don't worry. I'm going to use the gap minder, and then I also want to get a country. I also want to get the year, and I also want to get the life expectancy. Okay, so I'm going to save this one. It's going to be called data. So if you check here on my environment, I have data. And then the next thing that I want to do is to make that data long. So I'm going to say long data. I already have long data, so I'm going to just say long SL. Okay, as a new variable.
OLANO, please.
Yeah, go ahead, please.
Yeah, I'm seeing Alimami's hand has been up for a long time. I don't know if it's a mistake or so.
I didn't get you. You said you're seeing what?
Yeah,
Alimami Cargo's hand.
Alimami hands have been up since the beginning of this.
Yeah, I don't know if it's a mistake or so.
Yeah, I think
maybe probably is not with this Alimami. So Mr. Olano, can we go for 5 minutes?
Okay, let's go a 5-minute break. Let me just pull down the hand of him. I think his hand been up. Okay, so you can take 5 minutes break.
I have a small issue here. I don't know the version of I'm using. Maybe I cannot have a select command in my app. Can I use select list? Is it the same?
If you're not seeing select, that means you have not loaded the tidyverse. So you have to
already. I'm
load the
open with tidyverse already.
So run it again. Run this line again. Library tidyverse. Run it and see first.
Okay.
What's the output there? Or in this 5-minute break, I can allow you share your screen and then you show us.
Okay.
Do you want to share your screen?
No problem. Let me see.
Okay, so I'm going to stop sharing, and then you can share your screen and show us probably what is the issue. Yeah, you can go ahead. I think you have the privilege to share.
Yes, like this select. When I try to load select, let me just try something. See my options. Select the list, select method, select.
No, go
so
back.
I
Where
was
did you have the library tidyverse? Let me see.
okay. Library tidyverse. I loaded it
Try to
here.
run it. Click right behind it. Okay.
Huh?
Yeah, so now it's loaded. It's okay. I think before it was not loaded. So now try to spell select. Let's see what happened. No, it didn't spell right. Go back. Okay. Okay,
Okay,
now
you're
you
right.
can get it. So that's the problem.
Thank you.
Okay. So you can stop
Let
sharing
me
and then
stop.
let me go back to mine.
Thank you.
All right, no problem. Let me just read it cool and then I'll explain to you guys when you get back. So now let's make our data long. I'm going to call it long data 1, because we already have long data. And then long data will now be Y data.
So, please, within the short time, Mr. OLANO, what's the essence? When do we use this long and wide data? I did not catch it up well. I was writing a code.
So in this one, let's go back to, let's view Y data. Firstly, let's view the original data we are working with. The original data set we are working with is called Gapminder. So let's check Gapminder and see how Gapminder data is actually arranged. So can you see this one? The countries.
Yeah.
So all the countries here, they are just in a straight line. And then we have the continent, the year that particular survey or research was done, and other variables that are there. So what we are saying is, what if we have a way to just get only one name from that country? Maybe the name was repeated so many times based on the many years that research was done. We just want to get one name, but then in front of that name, we can just put all of the years that research was done, and then we can put what we want to put there. Either it's going to be life expectancy, or we want to just see the GDP for that particular year. That's what we are doing. So we say, okay, now let's use the Gapminder data set, which you just saw. Give us the country, the year, and the life expectancy. These are 3 things that we want to see in our new variable called Momo. And then that was a whole different data set was created all by itself. So if you even check here, you see Momo. So Momo is a different data set that has only the country, name, and life expectancy. So we say, okay, since we have this new data set, we want to make the data set unique. So we say we're going to use something called a pivot water. But we create a new variable called Y data. It can be any name we want. But in this Y data variable, we want to save Momo as our new data set we created into this new variable. And then we do what? We now want to make this data Y. But in making this data Y, we do something called name from. Where are we getting this data from? We are getting the name from the year. And the values we are getting on this year is coming from the life expectancy. So after that, we view now this new Y data. So if we look for Y data here, or we just run this line, view Y data, we now see that previously Gapminder was like this, but now Gapminder have changed to this. So we no longer have Afghanistan repeating. We just have one Afghanistan, and we have all of the years listed. And on this year, we just have the life expectancy for that particular year.
Yeah. Okay. Now I see.
So that is what we are doing. So now you can just see all of the countries and all of that like that. So we can also do the same by just taking the we can take the entire thing back to make it long instead of making it wide. So let's say probably the data was wide, and then you want to make it long. So that's what we're about to do now. If we import other CSV or Excel data for analysis, do we still need to install any package? Can we import Excel data set and use it for training? Yes, we imported Excel data set, which we saw, I think, on the second day. You can import it and use it for your analysis. We are just using this Gapminder or Star Wars because we don't have maybe a data set that just kept somewhere that we all can use at once. So R give us that advantage or that privilege to have so many data sets we can work with. So if you import CSV or Excel data set for analysis, you still need to install packages to work with. Like if you want to, you always have to use the tidyverse. No matter which data set you're working with, you're going to call the tidyverse because the tidyverse gives you the advantage to use select. As you saw, one of our brother couldn't find select because maybe you want to select different columns from your data. And that data is from CSV or Excel. So you need to also call the tidyverse library or package. So whether it's CSV data, SPSS data you import, or Excel data, and you want to do similar thing like this, maybe calling different, changing variable names or column names, everything we have done before, you can still use the same tidyverse to do that. So I hope that answered the question. Now I'm going to read this code. I think we have 3 minutes, and then we'll come back to the full class. So some of you that are drinking your tea and your coffee, you can continue to drink it. I'll take a walk for about 2 minutes, and then we'll get back. I'm just going to read the code, and then later on, when people come back, we'll explain. So now we use the however longer. Yeah, you have a question?
Yes, please.
Yeah,
I did not get that one clear. So what you're trying to say that I have my database, I already collected my primary data. So if I want to do analysis and then I import into the system, I still need to install the packages like the library for the derivatives and then also for Star Wars before starting any analysis.
no.
Is that what it?
Not Star Wars. Star Wars is coming within the tidyverse. You don't have to use Star Wars. We are just using Star Wars data set because we don't have maybe similar data set that we can use for this training. So we are using a data set to demonstrate how we can deal with missing data, how we can change column names, how we can change some, like for example, in the data set we saw there was male and female, we're able to change it to man and woman. So we're just showing you how you can do these things with your actual data. So if you import your actual data and you want to do similar things, like these commands, like select or recode, or probably, what are some of the other ones that we use? We use mutate, we use select, we use probably view. So in order to use these keywords, they are not coming with any other package. They are coming with the tidyverse package. So we can just load this library, tidyverse, and we'll now have the ability to use these keywords with our actual or our own data set. So
which means
go ahead.
Which means before I import the Excel data into the RStudio, I first need to bring the library for tidyverse.
Yeah, you can first call the library.
Which one come first?
Doesn't matter. But before you run the code, you make sure you call the library. So you can even import your data set and later on install the tidyverse. Or you can install the tidyverse and also import your data set. But what is going to be much more important is, for example, if you want to maybe do any analysis, like using select and all of these things, you have to install tidyverse first before you can be able to use these keywords like select or power longer, power water, or mutate, and all these things, you have to install Tidyverse first before you can use it. But to import your data set, you can import it anytime. To install Tidyverse, you can install it before your data, or you can import your data before Tidyverse. That one is there's no formality or order in it.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Yeah, bossman.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yes. Basically, just in addition to what this people have just said, what are the first packages, like universal packages for any analysis that you want to perform that you first need to install?
So
like if there are any universal packages, yes.
One, you have to
That
install
before.
Tidyverse.
Okay.
Secondly, it also depends on the data you are importing and what you want to do. But also you can install ggplot 2. You can also install Plotly. So this, by default, if you check, if you install Tidyverse, you will see among the packages that comes along, ggplot is already there. But you can also install it just in case you don't have it, or probably you want to get other dependency. So ggplot 2, as we will see shortly, it is used to generate graphs or make you to have the ability to customize your graph or your plots or your charts however way you want. That's the advantage of ggplot. Plotly also gave us the ability to have mostly like a 3D animation of our data. So probably if you have, let's say for example, you want to visualize this data to say you want to see for Afghanistan in 1952, the life expectancy was 28 years. And then in 57, so you're going to see the curve, but it's going to be in a motion or 3D effect. So if you want to work with something like that, then it's Plotly as a package going to do that. But universally, I would just recommend you go with these two for now.
Okay.
And also depends on what you want to do. So if you want to import and export Excel data, then you can also add the read XL and the write XL package. So the next packages that will come, it depends on the kind of data you want to work with or you're working with.
Yeah, please, is ggplot a package or a command?
It's a package and it's also a command.
Oh,
so
okay.
In order to use the command, you need to get the package.
All right, okay. So I'm somehow skeptical, like I'm doubtful. Can R perform statistical analysis, or it just visualizing data and manipulating? Can we perform statistical analysis like inferential statistics in SPSS? Can we also use R to perform such analysis?
Yes, you can do any analysis of R. Anything SPSS can do, R can do it.
R is the chief. Is the chief analysis.
I don't know. I think we have not touched that area.
Which area?
Analysis aspect. I don't know if
analysis comes in different ways or in different factions. We have just analyzed some data.
Actually, brother, let me help him. You know, actually, we might be having series of these things. We cannot go through all at once.
I can't hear you, Mr. Barry.
I am saying, you know, we are expecting to be having this training series, but we can't go through the whole of R in one training of 3 days, just for 1 hour, 30 minutes, 2 hours. What we are doing now is like a foundation of R. Even if you want to go to do, let's say, maybe you're thinking of doing statistics like two-way and over, t-tests and all that. You cannot go and do them all if you don't have these foundations. No way.
That's true.
So, so the best is he's giving us this foundation, and then probably by God's grace, we are hopeful to be partnering with him. He is like our guru. Thank God he don't eat
Academic
cassava
guru,
leaf na
IT
Sierra Leone.
guru.
So
You can even
we'll be
see his
bringing.
ID is IT guru.
So don't worry, you can do any kind of analysis. Anything you can do with
Yeah, because that's really what I wanted to know.
anything you can do with SPSS or Stata, you can do it here in R plus more. Okay,
All right.
so
Okay, great.
Bossman,
okay.
one last one. This
Yeah.
symbol, this question mark, this percentage, less than percentage. What is the shortcut again, please?
Control Shift M.
No,
the
that is
less than
piping
percentage is alternate.
in. That is.
That one is alternate. You mean this one, right?
Yes.
No.
He's asking
alternate.
No. This
Minus.
No, not that.
percentage symbol.
Oh, the percentage one is Control Shift and M.
Together. Oh.
Yeah, together. Control Shift M.
Okay. All right. Thank you so much, bro.
Okay, so let's move on. For the powered water, we are just doing the same thing we did before. But now we are just specifying the column 2 to 13. And we are getting the data. The data we are using is coming from the previous one we did, which is the WAD data. And that WAD data, technically what it was doing, it was actually doing this by giving us the country, just one name, and then the year and the life expectancy from that area. So now what we are saying is that our name is coming from year and our value is coming from life expectancy. So if we now check this one, we see that we get the data is not long as it was before. We have taken the data back from the state it was in to now bring us to where we actually are. So you can do both using I think the only main difference here is just the name tool and name from. So in the water one, we say get us our name from year, but in the longer one, we say our name to year. So if you observe here, you will see from year, our name to year is giving us the year of that, the particular year that thing
Please,
happened.
guys, mute your mic, please. You are disturbing, please.
Let me just
mute your mic.
I'll come here, I'll just mute everyone. Okay. All right. So we are getting the year from the actual year in the original data set. In our original data set, we have year. So we are getting our year from this and life expectancy also. This is coming from the actual data set. So we have limited time now. Let's now move into visualization. Can we use this data to create a table with CR and OR? Yes, you can also create tables in R using a package called GT Extra. GT Extra gives us a very beautiful way that we can customize our table. We can use different analysis of our table as well, using a package called GT Extra. Okay, so I will just leave my WeChat ID here again, because today's the last day. Tomorrow you're not going to see me, or probably I don't know when you'll see me again. But you can add me on WeChat, and then if you have any other question or concern, then we can take it up from there. So let's move into our visualization. I want us to do bit and pieces, but what I want to do here, we're going to generate one graph, but we're going to keep customizing this graph as we move along, keep customizing it so that you can see how to add these different customization to your graph. So after we have done this, if time is there, then the next thing we're going to do will be very easy, because generating histogram, bar plot, scatter plot, and all these things, they are just the name. But all of the other things that comes along with it are the same thing we're going to be using here. And the one that I'm even going to do now is even more advanced than just generating a manual histogram plot. So let's see how we can do that. The first thing, you want to get your library tidyverse, but then there is another data set we're going to use called MPG. MPG means miles per gallon, MPG. So once you already have the tidyverse installed, you will have this data set called MPG. So I want you to do view MPG and let me know if you can see this data set called MPG. Let me close this wide one and long one in Commander. So this is the MPG data set. It has the manufacturer, the model of that car, the display, the year it was made, the number of cylinder, and every other detail like the drive. So we have F, we have 4, we have R in here. We're going to show you probably what's the meaning of F, what's the meaning of 4, what's the meaning of R. You have the stated mileage and every other detail you need to know about this data set. So you can have it here and read it. So let me know in the chat box if you can do view and in parentheses MPG. If you can do that, please let me know in the chat box by just using, okay, somebody have already done that. That's Barry. Okay, yeah, I think everyone should be having that. As long as you have the tidyverse, you should be able to have this data set called MPG. Okay, that's good. So now let's move on. So I'm going to remove this mine ID before somebody run it as a code. So now what we want to do is to create a variable. Somebody said I should use that name as the next variable. I think that was Abdul. Let me see how you spell his name. Abdul. Abdul. So we are creating a variable called Abdul. And this variable Abdul is now going to keep or use this data set we just viewed called miles per gallon, MPG. Okay, and then do what? We now want to plot. We want to generate a graph of this data set. But what exactly do we want to generate? Or what do we want to show? So we now use ggplot to do that. ggplot. So ggplot, now we have to specify something called aesthetics. Aesthetics is just English word. The same thing you know about aesthetics. It's the same concept here for aesthetics. It's more of like you can just consider it in another way that we have our entire, for some of you that do drawing, or probably let's say our chalk bowl or our white bowl, or probably just a flat surface that we have. We can consider it as our aesthetics, as a flat surface. And on this flat surface, we want to tell arrow or ggplot which data do we want to spread on this flat surface. Which data do we want to spread on this flat surface for our x-axis and our y-axis? And by default, the x-axis comes before the y-axis. Okay, so now let's see. We are telling our aesthetics that on our x-axis, we want to have the CTY, that is the city mileage. If you check in the data set, you will see CTY here. But let's first try to read some information about this data set called MPG. So I'm going to close it up here a little bit. And then I'm going to go close this guy up here a little bit. So when you check down here, you can see MPG is the data set. And this data set is the fuel economy data from 1999 to 2008 for 38 popular models of cars. So this is the data set we are working with. Okay, and then from this data set, we can see different things. For example, we saw year. Year is the year of manufacture. CYL is the number of cylinder. Trans means the type of transmission. DRV means the type of drivetrain. So in that data set, we saw F, we saw R, and we saw 4. So F means it's a front wheel drive. R means it's a rear wheel drive, and 4 means it's a 4-wheel drive. CTY means it's a city mileage per gallon. And HW means it's a highway miles per gallon. So you can see all the description about that data set if you want to understand it. So we are saying the city mileage per gallon is what we want to plot on our x-axis. And then we want to generate something called fill. Fill means we want to have something like a legend that we're going to use to interpret whatever thing we're going to have on our graph. I'm going to show you that shortly. As we generate a graph, you're going to see probably what we are talking about. So we are filling this entire thing using the DRV. And DRV is also here. That is the drive train, out of four-wheel drive, rear-wheel drive, or front-wheel drive. So we are using that as our guide. Now the next thing we want to say, you're going to add a plus here. Observe, I'm adding a plus after the double closing of the parentheses. I'm adding a plus. Why am I adding a plus? It's because I want to introduce something new on this plain surface that we have. So the first thing we tell ggplot is that on the surface, we're going to use the city mileage, and then in respective with the drive information out of four-wheel drive, a rear wheel, and forward, and all of that. Then what kind of graph do we want? We have different kind of graph, like the histogram, plot, bar, and all kinds of graph. We also have a density. So now we said I want to use geom density. So it's a density plot or the density graph. Geom means geometric. Geoms means geometric. So geometric density is the kind of plot or graph that we want to use. So geom density, and then what else do we want to do? I'm going to stop it right here, and then I'm going to see if I can view Abdul. Let's see if we can view Abdul, what will happen. All right, let's try to run this and see if Abdul not found. So let's highlight everything and run it. Okay. Instead of viewing it, I'm just going to call Abdul. Okay, I'm not going to put view. I'm just going to put Abdul. ABD.
Abdul's good to go.
I'm just going to call Abdul.
Okay, run it.
So let's see, it's still trying to generate the graph. Okay, now you can see here, voila, our graph has been generated. So if you observe this graph, and the legend DRV is now serving as the legend for us. And the red color here is representing the four-wheel, green color representing the front wheel, and the blue color representing the rear view or rear wheel. So if yours graph are generated as well like mine, then you can let me know in the chat box by sending maybe 2. If you can also see the same thing here. So we fill our entire plane interface or our plane surface. We want to fill it with this information called the city mileage. So we fill it in with this. And then we now use the DRV as our legend. That's good. Many people have already done generate a similar thing. Now let's see how we can continue to customize this, this graph. If you observe this graph, it does not have any title. There's no labels on it. Even the X and Y axis also, they don't have probably the description that we actually want. So we can do anything and everything with this graph, which is not possible with any other software you might have out there for data analysis. So what can we do next? If you observe the red and the green area, we cannot see the actual shape of it. So in order for us to see the actual shape of it, we can use something called alpha. And in case you are confused, how am I getting these things that I'm using in between, you can always come and check your aesthetics, come to aesthetics, and then you press the F1, or you can search in your search area here for help, and then you put AES, you will see all of the description of what you can use with the aesthetics. Similarly, for geom density, I can also see all of what I can use for this geom density. So for example, in geom density, I can remove missing data. I can also set the position. I can also specify the statistics. I can show our legend, and I can do a whole lot of things. If you even scroll down, you will see more things you can do with geom density. So don't get confused, probably what I'm using it from or what am I getting it from. In here, one of the features that geom density has is called alpha. So alpha means the transparency. How transparent do we want our visualization to be? For example, we can see the blue, red, and green. They are dark. So we cannot see the actual shape of the other graphs that are behind, like the red graph, the green graph. We cannot see the full shape. So we want to say that alpha runs from 0 to 1, with 0 being the lowest, 1 being the highest. So let's say alpha 0.3. Let's use alpha 0.3 and then try to rerun this and see what happens. So it's going to give us a new graph. And this new graph is now going to be a little bit transparent. It should be a little bit transparent. Let's see what is not coming up. Where are you, bro? Where are you, bro? I think issue. Let me just clear all of the graphs that I have here in case. Well, if you run yours, you should be seeing yours. I think the problem is from mine. So let me run it again. Okay, it's clearing all of the plots. But if you run yours, yours should work. Okay. Inverted plot index. Okay, so somebody already run theirs. So you can now see the shape of, okay, so now you can see the shape of the other ones that are behind. We can see the red shape here. We can see the green shape and all of that. Now we can see how the curves and everything, the trend of even one. So keep alpha in mind if you want to use it in the future. Now, another thing we can add to this graph, our graph don't have any title. So there's something called labels, L-A-B-S. So labels also, it has its own things that you can put within it. So if I also press F1 while the cursor is blinking over labels, or I can search in the help area for labs, I can see that I can put title, I can put subtitle, I can put caption, and a whole lot of things I can put on the label. So let's make use of that. Let's put our title, TIT. By the time I put TIT, it's going to pop up title. Now I can put a title for this graph called miles per gallon. Miles per gallon as the title of this graph. And then probably what else do I want? I think this is okay. So I'm going to run it again to see if the title actually appears. So you can now see that we have the title miles per gallon. There are other things we can do. We can also add subtitle. So to add a subtitle, inside this lab area, at the end of the quotation mark, we just put a comma. We can continue in the same line, but I don't want to keep going further. I can just press enter and then tap the next thing that I want to tap. I also want to add a subtitle. So by the time I tap SUB, I can see subtitle. This subtitle now, I can now specify what I want to be on my subtitle. For example, Sierra Leone Students Union in China. Now when I run it again, observe that I'm going to have a subtitle under my first title. Miles per gallon was the first one, or the main title, and I have this other title on here with Sierra Leone Students Union in China. This is not all we can do with this. We can also add description for our X and our Y axis. We can also add caption. So now let's add first our description for our X axis. Currently, our x-axis is just showing CTY. We can change our x-axis to whatever we want. Let's say, for example, the x-axis is city mileage. Our y-axis here is density. We can also change it from density to whatever thing we want. But let's first run our x-axis and see if it's actually going to make that changes. So now you can see in our x-axis here, it changed it to a city mileage. So we can change that x-axis. We can also change our y-axis. To change the y-axis as well, you put a command here and just put a y, and then you specify what you want there. Just put density. I'm going to use capital D, DN, SRTY, and I'm going to run it again. So if you observe here now, our y-axis has cap D. If you want to see the previous graphs you generated, you can use the back arrow to go back to the previous version of the graph. Okay, so now what are other things that we can do? We can also add a caption. Many graphs you have seen, you have also seen caption probably where that data was collected from. So you can add caption. By the time you post CAP, it's going to pop up. I'm going to enter. And the caption I'm going to use here is to say source. This data set is coming from the MPG. Okay, I'm going to put maybe arrow MPG. So whatever thing you want to put in a quotation is up to you as your caption. So now if you look at this graph, you see below it, on the right-hand side below, you see source arrow MPG. So that's how you can add source or probably the caption to your graph. Now, what else can we do? If you observe this graph, you will notice that the background of this graph, you can see more of like a gray color. Maybe you don't want that gray color. You want to remove the gray color. So what can we do with that? The next thing we want to introduce is something called theme. So to introduce another thing on our surface, we add a plus. That means we have already completed everything we wanted from the labs area, because the labs parenthesis open here and it closes at the end of caption. So we want to add a new thing to our ggplot. But if you already have done everything we have put here, just let us know so that we know that we are not talking about ourselves. Just send a message in the chat box by sending 1. At least we know that you're on course with us. Just send 1 in the chat box so that we know you are here with us. Okay. And even if you are here, but you are not done this, just send 1 in the chat box. If you are here, but even you have not done whatever we have done, everybody on the platform send 1 in the chat box. Everybody on the platform should send 1 in the chat box. Whether you have done it, you have not done it, just send 1 in the chat box. I want to know if probably the other people are also following. So we should get more than 60 ones here. Everybody should send 1 in the chat box. This is helpful for you because even if you, maybe if Mr. Masterquest said, oh, you are not in attendance, we can also come here and check the chat record and see if you responded at any point in time. Okay, now let's move on. So many people have it. The next thing we want to do is to introduce something called a theme. We want to introduce something called a theme. Let me see. Somebody here is. Trying to untick. So let's introduce something called a theme. Theme is another. There are different themes. In our themes just mean the background we want to use. You can have a theme of black and white, or you can have different kind of theme, like a theme classic, dark, gray. There are different kinds of themes that you have in R. So let's explore this by using theme minimum. So we're going to use team minimum, and then let's try to run it and see. Now, if you observe, look carefully, you will see that this one is green, but now we want to use another team called team minimum. Let's see what's going to happen to our background. So now you can see our background now is clear. We no longer have that gray kind of color in our background. There are different kinds of team. You can explode them. Team underscore. After here today, you can explode them. You can use the gray. You can use the black and white team. Different kinds of team you can use. Now the next thing we want to do is to see how we can change. For example, if you observe the title here and the subtitle, they are on the left side of the graph. Let's say we don't want it there. We want to put it probably in the middle, or we want to put it on the right-hand side, or probably we want to take our legend, where we can see the DRV. We want to bring it inside the graph. All these customizations are possible with arrow that the other guys do not have. So let's move on. Team minimum. The next one we want to introduce is another team. So we say team. And now inside this team is where we are going to specify or arrange all of our titles and subplots to arrange them the way we want it. So I'm just going to give you all these options so that you can know probably how to get it the next time you're working with it. So let's say, for example, we want to change the color, the size, and the adjustment of our title, which is miles per gallon. We want to put it in the middle. We want to change the color, and we want to just do so many things with it. So we say team, our plot.title, and then you press enter. What do you want to do with the plot title? I want to change the text. So we say element, and then we take the last option here, element text. I want to change the element text of the plot title. Okay. Inside the element text, we can change many things. We can change the size. We can make it bold. We can change the color. We can also put it in the middle. So what do you want to do? Firstly, I want to change the size. So I say size. Change the size to what? Maybe size 18. So what next do you want to do? I'm going to put a comma here and enter, because if I keep tapping, it's going to keep moving to the other direction. I want to also change the text to make it bold. So I use face, and then I spelled bold in quotation, meaning I want to make this text bold. What do you want to do again, my friend? I also want to change the color. So COLOU. Also to put this in a double quote. The bold should be in a double quote, and the command should come after the double quote. So I now want to change the color of this. COLOU or COLR. I want to change the color probably to which color do you want to use? I want to use, for example, maybe dark blue. So I spell dark blue. And once you spell dark blue or you spell the color, arrow is going to give you hint to that color by making the text to take the actual color that you just spelled. And then what else do you want to do, my friend? I also want to put this title in the middle. So I'm going to use something called H-just. H-just means horizontal adjustment. Horizontal adjustment. And this horizontal adjustment, you have the adjustment from 0 to 1. So 0 means you want to put the adjustment to the left. 0.5 means you want to put it in the middle. 1 means you want to put it title or that text, you want to put it to the right-hand side. So since I want to put it in the middle, I'm going to use 0.5. Okay. So now first, let's run this and see what happened to our graph. So now we can see that miles per gallon is blue. Miles per gallon size have increased. Miles per gallon is also in the middle of our plot or our graph. Okay, now we can also do something. We can change the X and Y axis. We can also change and use the same thing we used there before. We can change it, the size. We can change the color. We can make it bold. So we can repeat technically the same thing. So at the end of 0.5, there are two parentheses that are closing. The first parenthesis is what I want to put a comma after, and then I press enter. In here now, I want to change the axis, the X and Y axis. So I say axis, AX, RX. Axis, what do you want to change? I want to change the axis text. So axis, the text, meaning what we can see 0.5 or 0.1, density, all these things. We want to change the text information from that. And also we call the element text. The element text of the axis is what we want to change. And similar thing to what we just did, we can also change the size. Maybe we'll make the size 10. And then we can also change the color. We also make the color maybe to take a green. Okay. And then another thing we can do here is to change to make it bold. So we change the face and then we make it bold. All right. So now let's run it and see what happened to our graph axis, the text of our axis. So if you observe it, you can see 0.15, 0. This, all these ones on our X and Y axis, they have changed, the size have increased, and also the color also changed, and the text is also bold. Okay, so similar thing we can do is to change the title. Our title here for our axis is density and city mileage. We can do the same thing to change the title of our plot or our graph. So at the end of the board here, we have two parentheses that are closing. We can use the second parenthesis, or after the first parenthesis, we put a comma, and then we say our axis title. Axis, the title. And then what do you want to do? The element text. So the element text, and then what else do you want to do? We also want to change the color, the size, and everything as well. So we change the size. Maybe we make the size to be 13. And then we also change the color. We make the color to be maybe orange. ORANGE. Okay. And then what else do we want to do? Let me open this thing a little bit. That's why I didn't want to go straight. What else do you want to do? I also want to change I think these ones are okay. So I don't have to change anything else again. So those ones are okay for the axis. I'm going to run it. And then let's see what happened. Can the color intensity be adjustable? Yeah, the color intensity can also be adjusted. Can also be adjusted as well. Anything can be customized in R. Anything can be customized in R. So we have seen that the title here have also changed. The next thing we want to do is to add, maybe for example, our caption. The caption we have here is currently to the lower right corner. Let's say we want to bring that caption maybe to the right-hand side of, the left-hand side of our graph. So we also close this one right here by putting a comma. And then we say our plot caption. So plot the caption. What do you want to do with it? Our element text. We want to adjust that to come to the left instead of it being from the right lower corner. So our adjust, our horizontal adjustment should come down to the left-hand side. So it's 0. So again, when I run it, observe that where we have source.
A second, and I'm going to any.
So you can see that.
Popular
Mute this person. So you can see where we have the source before is now here on the graph to the left-hand side of the graph. I muted this guy. He still unmute himself to speak. Okay. So we have it there. Now let's move on and see what we have. Let me clear my console here and then move this thing down a little bit. Okay. So technically we have done a lot. So the only thing we need to do now to see how we can bring this legend inside the graph. Probably we want to make use of the space. Our graph still have a space. So let's see how we can bring our legend inside. So we are finished with all these things. We can close it by adding a plus and introduce a new theme. And inside this theme, we want to work with our legend position. So legend dot position. And this legend position, we want to have a specific position. So you might be confused how this number was obtained. You can play with the number. So the position we want is from left to right. We want to have this 90% to the right. And then we also want to have this 80%, 0.8 means 80% from top to bottom. So we want to have it to the top by 80%. Why he's still unmuting himself and speaking? This
guy, maybe you can just exit it because he's not even paying attention and then he calls him.
Okay, keep muting him and then he will unmute himself. So 0.9 and 0.8 means 90%. 0.9 is 90%, and it means from left to right. So take us right side 90%, and then 0.8, the second part means top to bottom. Take up to the top by 80%. So let's run this and see what happens. So if we run it, we will now see that this DRV that was outside of the graph is now inside the graph, and it's to the right-hand side by 90% because there is still a little space here. So it's there by 90%. And then from the bottom to the top is also there by 80%. So you can also play with the numbers and bring it inside or maybe bring it downwards or bring it upward mode. That's up to you. But just to show you how we can do all of these different adjustments with our graph. Lastly, before I talk about the next one as to what we can do, let me know in the chat box if you have done this by sending maybe two. How can we merge Sierra Leone Student Union at the bottom of the miles per gallon? Do you have to, this one is the subtitle. We have something called a subtitle. When we created this, we have the subtitle. So if you also want to customize the subtitle, then you just come here. Right after this, we have the orange. Even right here, where you have the age just 0, you can add now the plot subtitle. So let's say, let's put a comma here and enter. And then we put plot dot subtitle. And then what do you want to do with the subtitle? Maybe you want to put it in the middle or whatever thing you want to do with it. You can also do the same thing. It's just up to you, however way you want it. Let's put it in the center, our age just. And then put it in the center 0.5. Since you talk about the alignment, I'm going to run it again and see what happened to Sierra Leone Student Union in China. So you can see that it has come under this miles per gallon. It's now in alignment with the title here. So it's up to you based on how you want it. So whatever thing you have used here we use title, subtitle, caption. So that's why we also edited like a plot title, the ISIS text, the ISIS title, the plot caption, plot subtitle. So the more things you use there, if the more you want to customize it, that's fine. So a lot of people already have it. How do we copy and paste this graph into our PPT? That's what we're about to do. So your question came at the right time. You have two ways to do it. One way is you can see on a plot, we have something called export. So if you click to export, you can see copy to clipboard. So once you copy this one, the last one, you click on it, that entire thing will be copied, and then you can go to your PPT and paste it there. Or you can save it as an image. You can also save it as a PDF. Okay? So you save it as an image or you save it as PDF. So once you save it, you already know where you save it, and you can go for it there. Or you just copy it, and then you go to your report or your PPT, and you paste it in your PPT. But there's another way to do it, wherein we can be able to specify more things. Oh, time has already catch up with us. Let me just push this one in quickly. It's not very long. So how can we save it? ggplot gave us an option. So after Abdul here, you can press enter, and then you can press the tab key twice, or you can just go ahead and tap GG save. You tap GG save, and then it's going to open up like this. So inside here now, GG save, it means that we want to save this graph based on our own way, how we want to save it. So if you just save it from here, it's just going to be saved probably by default. But you have more advantage on how you want to save your graph. For example, we can give our graph a name. We want to save it as Sierra Leone Student Union in China, dot whatever the extension we want to use. It can be PNG, it can be JPG, it can be GIF, it can be whatever extension you want. So this is another great option you have, to your disposal in R. Okay, now that we save this file with this name, so whenever we're checking for this graph, we should check our computer, our current working directory. So let's see our current working directory. So get WD to see our current working directory. So it's in document arrow file. So document arrow files is where this graph is going to be saved. So we can add other things to this one. Let's say we want to increase the width of this graph. We want to make this graph to be, the width should be 10. We also want the height of this graph to be 7 centimeters, but we have to specify the units. So we put units, centimeter. So, because centimeter is shorter than meter. So if you put meter as a unit, your graph is going to be maybe the size of the entire country. And then the DPI means the resolution. So we want 300 resolution. We want 300 resolution. This is how probably clear or transparent or the quality of our graph should be. So if I run this thing and save it, the entire code from up to down is going to be saved inside this directory, inside this current working directory. So arrow files. So let me highlight everything and then save it. Okay, so that has been saved. I think now it's saving. When we see this red thing here, mean the code is still running. So the code is still running. Let's wait for it to save. But while it's saving, this is the last thing that I have for us today. And thank you guys so much for the time. Thank you so much for being here. It was an honor to be a part of this training, and also to speak with you from people from Sierra Leone. How can we change the key on the graph? Because of time, we can't cover everything. I don't like to keep people waiting or go against time. So If you have any further maybe question, you can ask me later on. So I don't. What if you want to change the direction of the desktop? So you can change your working directory, so it doesn't matter. You can change your working directory. So now this code has been run successfully. If I come here to my computer and I look for that folder called R files, I should be able to see the graph saved as this one, Sierra Leone Student Union in China. When I open it, I will also see the same graph that I saw from the dashboard. So if you check your computer, you should also be able to see the same thing. So that's it. Thank you guys so much. And I take it over now to the committee to do whatever they have to do, probably your attendance also.
Yeah, before we take the attendance, let me just, on behalf of Australian students in China, I want to take this opportunity to express our heartfelt gratitude for the exceptional training on RStudio that you have just conducted. Indeed, your expertise, enthusiasm, and clear explanation made complex topic accessible and engaging for all of us, you know. And a hand-up activities, real-world examples that we use, you know, provided not only to enhance our understanding, but also inspire us to apply what we have learned in our own project that we will be undertaking in our academic pursuit. Indeed, because most of us, you know, have learned a lot, and your patience in addressing our questions and encouragement throughout the sections, you know, created a supportive learning environment that we truly appreciate. We appreciate it a lot. And thank you once again for your dedication and for sharing your knowledge with us. We look forward to applying our new skills and hope to have the opportunity to learn from you again in the future. Thank you, Mr. Orlando. Thank you, thank you, thank you. So guys, open your camera as we are about to take the attendance, and the attendance will be sent to the group for verification. So if you want your name, maybe 1, 2 letter got missing, and we have to verify. Just after this meeting, I will send a list to the group and make the corrections as. So we are about to take the attendance. Please open your camera, please.
Yeah, so I share my WeChat ID in the group. Oh, yesterday we talked about the YouTube. Hey, I even forget about you guys. Some of you didn't subscribe.
Guys should subscribe, please.
Some of you didn't subscribe, but your certificate will be subscribing.
Some of us are subscribed before.
Yeah,
that's for screening.
Yeah, that's good. That's good.
Please, can you please share the link for me? I tried yesterday. There was a challenge. Please do. I actually tried.
So I will send the video recording for day 3. So as you open the link on YouTube, you can just do the subscription there. I will also share the.
Thank you very much, my brother. This training is really impactful, and the way you